Now, an orphan who was rescued from the Vietnam War by British nurses has been reunited with one of them in Norwich as part of a huge fundraising effort.
Suzanne Tehean Hook is selling everything she has and leaving her home in Buckinghamshire to set up a new orphanage in her homeland. Laura Burns has more.
Suzanne remembers very little about Vietnam, other than it was pretty horrific. Born at the height of the conflict, she was found under a bush as a newborn, then crammed into a Saigon orphanage, along with hundreds of thousands of abandoned babies. But she was one of the lucky ones, rescued by English nurses and brought over here at the age of 3. Now 41, she's a qualified chef and beautician, and about to give that all up to return to Vietnam. This fundraiser, attended by several other orphans, will help fulfil her dream.
When I told some of the older children that I'm taking on what I'm going to do for them, one of the girls actually turned around and said to me, now I have something worth living for. And that to me is what it's about. You know, these children don't have a future, don't have any hope of a career. And if my money can help them, then everything I've done will be worth it.
And someone very special to her has arrived to help. Anne McCurran, one of the nurses that rescued her in the early 70s. As they reminisce over the past, thoughts turn to the new orphanage, which Suzanne is calling Galambi.
She's actually calling her nursery after the name of the nursery that she was in, and it was just wonderful, you know, just to have that happen. I can't tell you just how wonderful it is to see all the kids growing up, actually, but it's very special that she's going to do this, and I just want to support her in whatever way I can.
And while I was there, Suzanne got the news she'd been waiting for. And there was one person she couldn't wait to tell.
I've just sold my house. They're not on any return. Literally just now, they just phoned me, the estate agents, okay? And we're going to exchange on the 10th of October. Cash buyer wants it off the market. It's going to be coming off the market today, and I've done it. We've done it!
Galambi is now a reality and will care initially for 8 children. And despite, or maybe because of not knowing her real parents, Suzanne is more than ready to take on the role of mum. Laura Burns, Anglia News, Norwich.
Oh, what a wonderful story. Good luck, Suzanne. Football now, and matches for both our teams in the Championship tonight. Norwich follow up Saturday's win. Now, before we get on with the rest of the programme, a quick mention for our website, itv.com/Anglia.
You can watch items from the programme there, plus there's a full weather forecast for the Anglia region.
And if you missed any items last week, then go to our weekly catch-up section and you'll find them all there.
And finally, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at ITV Anglia and join us as well on Facebook at facebook.com/ITV Anglia. Right, next tonight, we feature some very special people here on Anglia Tonight who prove that age doesn't have to stop you doing a thing.
No, there have been an 86-year-old skydiver, wasn't there?
Had one of those, yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
An 80-year-old marathon runner and a 77-year-old martial arts expert.
Good old Ina. And here's one to add to that list. It's Melba Gray from St Osyth near Clacton in Essex. She's just celebrated a special birthday. Lorna Ramsey has been to meet her as well.
Melba Gray's cards just keep on coming. So far, she's got more than 90. But what is it that makes her so popular? One thing is that she doesn't let her age stop her doing anything. She takes fitness classes at Frinton and Brightlingsea, and there's no sign of her slowing down.
Can't live without it. I mean, I take up sequence dancing when I can't do Keep Fit, so I take 6 classes a week of Keep Fit. Got sequence dancing, Scottish dancing, English dancing, you name it, I'm there.
Melba says that doing her exercise classes here once a week makes her feel 10 years younger. But let's see whether the people of Frinton think she looks 10 years younger.
62.
What would you say if I told you she was 80?
What? 80? Wow, fantastic. Perhaps 70?
What would you say if I said she was 80?
Wonderful, marvellous. 10 years younger than one anticipated.
Guess at around early 70s, 72.
If I said she was 80?
I'd say she's looking very good. She's obviously having Botox or something.
So that puts her average age at 68. Not bad. And with latest figures showing 3 in 10 women and 4 in 10 men are overweight, Tendring Council says we could all take a leaf out of Melba's book.
I think over 20 different types of chronic illness that being active can help to prevent. So I think it's really important that people do that and not only understand that how good it is for you, but how much fun it can be. So, you know, you can do swimming, you can do cycling, you don't even have to use a leisure centre. You can get out and use some of the great open space, particularly that we have here in Tendring, on all our lovely coastlines and the countryside that we have.
Melba started dancing at the age of 7. Since then, she's spread her love of keeping fit to everyone she meets.
Right leg!
Even if some need more persuasion than others. Lorna Ramsey, Anglia News, Frinton.
She is fantastic, isn't she? The thing I find, whenever I see one of those stories, it just puts me to shame because I can't even touch the ground.
Well, I was going to say, she's twice your age, and Jonathan's like this when he gets out of the studio. She's more flexible than you.
Yeah, thanks. Carry on.
Finally, finally tonight, it's known as Britain's brainiest burial ground, a graveyard in Cambridge that's home to some of the country's greatest scientific minds.
You really do have to rub it in, don't you? Right. And now those who look after the Ascension burial ground are trying to get wider public attention for the great names who are buried there to help preserve the site. Stuart Leiths has been to see it too.
They were notable in their field, and now they're buried in this one. Some of the country's greatest scientists have been laid to rest here at the Ascension burial ground off Huntingdon Road in Cambridge. And now the group which looks after the site wants to raise its profile to help preserve what's been dubbed Britain's brainiest burial ground.
Like so many other buildings and cemeteries belonging to the church, they have a bit of a struggle making ends meet because, of course, their main purpose is a religious one, not necessarily a heritage one. So it would be really great if the community and the university took this place under its wing to a greater extent.
Among the prominent scientists in the burial ground are Sir John Cockcroft, a physicist who shared the Nobel Prize for splitting the atom. Another Nobel Prize winner was Sir Frederick Hopkins, who was honoured in 1929 for his discovery of vitamins. And the astronomer John Couch Adams used mathematics to predict the existence and position of the planet Neptune.
One of the hardest gravestones to find is that of someone who is arguably one of the most familiar names here, the Austrian philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, although the significance of the coins that have been placed upon it is perhaps only understood by those who are familiar with his work.
This really is a hidden gem of Cambridge. Very few local people know about this, let alone all the visitors who come from outside to Cambridge every year. Yet it really is part of the heritage of the city and of the university. And there are a fantastic number of really interesting people buried here.
This then is a burial ground where it is fair to say that most of the inhabitants were, and still are, dead clever. Stuart Leiths, Anglia News, Cambridge.
Very serene too. OK, 6:30 is when the national team take over from us. Here's Melba.
Before that, let's have some weather. Here's Rachel. Well, the weather's been a bit on the gloomy side today, but here's a little something that could do with it being a touch warmer for you.
Yes, this little chap is a banana tree frog all the way from the Ivory Coast. But how did he end up being here at Linton Zoo in Cambridge?
Very good question. Well, the name is perhaps a bit of a giveaway. He hitched a lift on a bunch of bananas and ended up at Cambridge Market, where trading standards officers picked him up and took him to a much more suitable place.
That.
Very good.
Not
as well.
Poisonous, but
no,
he is endangered, so he's been well looked after.
Right, I'm off to have my yoga lessons with Melba. And,
OK. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.
Bye.